Hey everyone, it's Brian, and it's good to see you. We've got in front of us the Liver King lawsuit filing, and he's not being sued for $25 million. He's being sued for $100 million. We're going to dive into that, but also look at this entire filing from the perspective of if you were to start your own supplement brand, maybe you want to talk about your life story. Maybe you want to talk about the lifestyle practices that you've used or are using to overcome a certain health condition, maybe manage a particular disease that you're facing, and you want to build those practices and talk about it in a way that doesn't implicate your brand. We're going to dive into these takeaways. And also, if you are seriously considering starting your own supplement brand, I do have a free PDF download to help you ask the right questions to find the right manufacturer for your supplement brand. You can find more in the link below. Let's get started. So kicking things off, let's look at this filing. You can see here the December date, December 28th was the date of filing from Christopher Altomer. It's actually filed against Brian Johnson, the individual, not just his company's Ancestral Supplements and the Fittest Ever. Typically, when we're starting our own business, we create the business entity thinking that's going to protect us. And yes, to a certain degree, it does protect you. But as you can see here, it's not always the case. And they're actually going after the individual. All right. Now, we're going to dive into the takeaways, but I need to say that I am not a lawyer, all right? So huge disclaimer there. I'm only sharing my thoughts, my point of view, my perspective from my almost 2 decades worth of experience in the compliance space for dietary supplements and natural health products. And the other thing I want to say is I am recovering from a cold, hence my voice. All right, let's get on with the key lessons. The first lesson is that it's important to get your business idea, your marketing plan, your business plan to be vetted by your compliance team, your legal team, right? You want to make sure that your idea is legally viable, that it's within compliance requirements. And if you look at this particular filing with the Liver King, and I should say that these are all allegations and none of this has been proven in court, and it's quite possible the Liver King is innocent across all the charges. That said, let's look at item 47. It does say he's fashioned a cult-like, extreme, and implausible regimented lifestyle referred to as the ancestral tenets. You know, the sleep tenet, the eat tenet, in particular the eat tenet, where he's eating raw meat. He's encouraging his consumers to eat raw meat. Then if we jump over to item 49, specifically the eat tenet, which entails a dangerous and life-threatening diet requiring the consumption of raw meat, cleverly designed a 2-part scheme to initially generate traffic to defendant's Liver King website, and thereafter, once consumers realized they were unable to sustain the eat tenet, to then direct consumers to the websites of the supplement companies, Ancestral Supplements and the Fittest, to purchase the various products. So essentially, they're saying, look, the Liver King knows the regular consumer can't eat raw meat. But if he can sensationalize this, consumers are going to realize, okay, this is not sustainable. I hate eating raw meat. It's making me sick. I have to then choose the ancestral supplements. And that's an important call out here. And this is that whole point. You know, is he trying to trick people? We have no idea. We don't know if there was a hidden agenda here. Maybe there is. Maybe his other emails reveal that. We'll find out. And then item 55, which is something that no one's really talking about, but I think is really important if this is part of your business plan to kind of call this out. And that is, you know, he's requiring a lot of people to consume raw meats and other organs and suffer severe and other foodborne illnesses. Now, further to that, I mean, you know, there are hunters out there. There are people really well-versed in hunting and understand how to properly harvest organs and which organs to eat that are relatively safe in that practice. You know, that's one thing. But the average consumer to go buy some raw liver off the shelf and eat it is a completely different situation and introduces a different level of food safety risks here that no one's talking about. And I think if you were to pitch this to a compliance team, this is something that we'd immediately call out. And then at least you know that, and then you can strategically better instruct your consumers on how they can follow the eat tenet properly without maximizing all that food safety risk, if you know what I mean. So when you combine all this, in addition to the fact that, you know, he's talking about his physique and how good he looks and feels, But knowing that, there was steroid use involved that he obviously denied, there is a strong case here that he is misleading his consumers. Now, let's dive into what that means. Like, what is false advertising? So if we look at item 89, the term false advertising, including labeling, they kind of go into the definition of that. In determining whether any advertising is misleading, there should be taken into account, among other things, not only representations made by statement, word, design, device, sound, or any combination thereof, but also the extent to which the advertising fails to reveal facts material in light of such representation. So essentially, it's saying false advertising is what you say about the product and the representations you make about it, but also what you don't say about the product. The key takeaway here is that false advertising, the definition here is quite broad. I would argue that it's actually giving a lot more leeway to the plaintiff's lawyers to make sure that you are falling under this clause and under these requirements. And as a result, you actually have very little wiggle room when it comes to false advertising. And I think, you wrap all this stuff up together, it clearly shows the importance of having that expertise, that compliance team, the legal team review your marketing plan, your business plan as a result. Next lesson that we can learn from this is that you have to be really careful about what you say and how you say it. All right, now if we look at item 29, it's positioning defendant Liver King as having to carve out a niche in the global dietary supplement market by effectively freeze drying and encapsulating beef liver and other raw meats and organs. And so it's kind of hinting at, hey, he's got a lot of control of the supply chain, and it goes on to support this. Item 30, in fact, Liver King has stated that defendants take the raw glandulars, we freeze dry them, we put them in capsules, and we make it so easy that consumers can't say no. We lower the barrier of entry. We've lowered it so low that it's accessible to all consumers. And then item 31, Liver King exercises full and complete control over this segment of the global dietary supplement market by having acquired defendants' competitors, including non-party Heart and Soil. So essentially, the Liver King controls all logistical aspects of the manufacturing, distribution, and sale of the defendant's products, including both the upstream and downstream procurement process. So if you look at item 30, and having watched a lot of Liver King videos for the purpose of this channel, you understand his personality, you see his character, you see this persona of his. Now, is that really him? I have no idea. But I could see him in a podcast speaking very freely, right? And almost like machismo, right? You're in the spotlight, you're doing an interview, but it won't feel like an interview in the moment. So as a result, you speak very comfortably. And I can see him kind of just like speaking to item 30.
We freeze dry them, we put them in capsules, we make it so low, the barrier of entry.
The regular consumer in me feels like, yeah, he's just kind of portraying his persona, but he's speaking very freely. The problem is that when you have a lawyer translate those words onto paper, and then you see this other side of the story, it doesn't feel that way anymore. The intonation, the tone, the character is one thing, context is one thing, but when you put it on paper in a filing like this, it positions you very differently, which is why it's so important to make sure that you have your talking points vetted by your legal team, your compliance team, etc. They can foresee this type of issue. They can look at your talking points and say, hey, if this were on paper, how would this look? How could someone misinterpret this, overinterpret this, or take advantage of what you said and use it against you? And I'm going to take it one step further. Let's just say your brand is growing at a great pace and you're getting that exposure. I think also good to include a PR consultant or a PR agency as part of that strategy. When I looked at the apology video of his, I don't know if he actually consulted with a PR agency or his lawyers. He doesn't seem like the type of guy to listen to those people. He just kind of does what he wants. I'm not sure if that's part of his persona or if that's actually him. This is an example of him being a victim of all of that. And that apology video has really backed him into the corner. Just the way he's positioned the apology, what he said and how he said it, I think has really hurt him. And I think it's going to really hurt his case from a defense standpoint, but that remains to be seen. All right, moving on. The next thing I want to talk about is the importance of building this culture of compliance and quality into the operation of your business. You want to build that into the foundation and kind of build a culture within that company. Essentially, you're trying to prevent these lawsuits from happening, especially like a class action lawsuit. These class action lawsuits also allow for the opportunity of discovery, which is essentially the plaintiff's lawyer can go into your emails, into the company's emails, into the company's text messages, Slack messages, and pick at the information and see what people are talking about saying to support their case. And a discovery exercise is messy, it's not fun trying to gather all that information, and it's also not fun having to figure out a defense for each of these things. And on top of it, there are things that as a business owner you can't control. Your employees are going to be emailing each other, slacking each other, texting each other, and they may think that it's private, but it's really not private. And so it's important to build this expectations, the communication, the rules around that, the general culture of quality and compliance into it, so that if a discovery exercise did happen, you'd be ready for it. You know, it's built into the foundation. No one's going to be saying stupid things. No one's going to be talking about assumptions or what they suspect, or just talking too freely thinking that all of this is protected when really it's not. Really important to kind of build in at the entrepreneurial level that understanding of compliance and making it as part of the culture, in addition to all the other elements that go into a great brand culture. Moving ahead, the next takeaway, and I think this is an obvious one, but it's important to emphasize that lawsuits are incredibly expensive. And in this case, he's being sued for more than $100 million, like more than $100 million, okay? And let me explain how he got there. Now, he's being sued for $25 million for each cause of action. The first thing is like, okay, how do you even come up with $25 million? And it might seem like a crazy amount of money, but it's really not that hard to get there. You could probably search on social media and him bragging about, you know, how much money his business makes. And you can also estimate or see, well, how much is it per unit, right? If it's $50 a bottle and you know how many product types, you know, he's got the liver, the other glands and other products. If you know approximately how many units he sells per month, you can multiply that out and you can probably get to the $1 million range, the $20 million, $25 million range relatively easily. And then you multiply that against each charge. So he's already at $100 million. He's got to fight for his innocence, right? So what does he do? He has to hire a lawyer. Now you don't hire just one lawyer, you hire a team of lawyers, right? Because one lawyer can't do all the work. That lawyer is going to need support. They're going to need other lawyers that have other levels of expertise. They're going to need some people to do some grunt work. They're going to need some people to do some research. They need some people to show up in court, right? They need some people to do errands. So you're paying an hourly fee for each lawyer. The base level is, you know, $400, $500 an hour, and it goes up $1,500, even more per hour for one lawyer. So if they're meeting together in a room, you're paying, you know, per person per hour, and you're doing that every day. It adds up, right? You're probably looking at the millions of dollars just in legal fees to defend himself. That's assuming he can get out of this. He doesn't have to pay a settlement. He doesn't go to court. Likely, he's going to settle, and so he's got to pay his team, plus he's got to pay the settlement fee itself, right? Which is going to be easily in the double-digit millions. What if he goes to court? Well, now everything gets extended. You have to pay your lawyers for the court appearance, the trial itself. So it's very, very expensive. Now, also written in here is that, you know, he's being charged for $25 million per cause of action, plus he got to pay for the legal fees of the plaintiff, right? Of the people charging him. These types of things you just don't want to get into. Let's just say he settled for like $100,000, which obviously that's not going to happen. You still have to remember, how much is he paying his legal team? And as I mentioned before, it's not cheap. He'll probably pay more in legal fees than he did the settlement. The big takeaway here is that it's just very expensive to do these lawsuits, whether you are innocent or not. Chances are your Schwarzeneggers, your Rocks out there are on steroids, but they're not getting sued. Why the liver king? If you look at item 42, you know, he's experimenting with steroids to build his physique and to increase his appeal to consumers. What's different here is that the Liver King got caught in a lie and he admitted to it. So you have the two elements. It's a very unique situation. Whereas, if The Rock were peddling his own form of supplements or his own energy drink or what have you, it's not like he's explicitly saying I don't use steroids, and he's not explicitly saying that you drink this, you will get this physique. When it comes back to your personal story, hey, you can talk about your personal story, you can talk about the lifestyle practices that you have. You just have to be truthful. It's what you say and also what you don't say. If you make it super clear, hey, this is not going to impact everyone, this is what worked for me, here's what I've done, and it'd be great if you tried this out. If you express it and communicate it in the right way, you would protect yourself from this type of situation. And bearing in mind all the other variables and your specific product and specific claims, if you are interested in creating your own supplement brand, be sure to A, watch this video, and B, make sure you download my free PDF on how to find the right contract manufacturer. It's got key questions to ask any prospective supplier to make sure that you find the right fit contract manufacturer for your brand. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. I will talk to you later. Cheers.